Hey everyone, this is Elias from RevMatch Media, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2022 Genesis G70. Now, if you take a look at this, it's a pretty awesome looking car. Well, let's go ahead and get started and see what makes this such a great car. We get started in the front and we can see this is definitely a very unique front end. Now, this is because it's the 2022, there is a difference between this model and the previous. So this is mid-generation refresh. And I'm so glad for it because these headlights, these quad LED headlights are amazing looking. The design is just really good. Now, I was concerned about light output because with this being such a smaller, shape, literally, physically, I thought the light output was going to be less, but not in this case. It was plenty of light, plenty of clear light as well, nothing to fatigue your eyes. So it's beautiful. I love this. And again, here we have the Genesis crest, which we can kind of see it being mimicked here on the grille. And there's a lot to this. There's a lot to this front end because, well, first of all, this grille has that like gunmetal black to it. So nice design to that. And we have this guy here. So this is all the safety things that this Genesis has, which is a lot. Smart cruise control with stop and go, I believe is the phrase. It has a front facing camera. Down here, you can probably see a little bit of the cooling system, and we'll see why we need that little cooling system down there. But yeah, I love this front end and this Siberian Ice Color. This has been it is going to be a very difficult color to photograph or show in a video. Reason why is because right now it's kind of showing white in the front, but towards the back it's going to show gray. That's the cool thing about this color, that in the light it really shines white, but in the shade you get kind of a richer like kind of gray tone. It just looks so nice. I've never been so amazed by a white. It's funny because I keep taking pictures and sending them to my wife and I go, oh, it's white right now, or oh, it's gray right now. So either side of the spectrum, it's beautiful. I do love the color that this has. Well, let's take a look under the hood and see what we have there. We get under the hood and we have the 3.3 liter V6 twin turbo under here. Now, this is cranking out 365 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. It is connected to an 8-speed automatic, and with this being the rear-wheel drive model, the power only goes to the rear, which isn't a bad thing. There is an all-wheel drive model to get power down to all fours, but this is gonna be the more fun, or the funner configuration. I definitely loved this setup. So they are fairly small turbos, but the weird thing is there's a little bit of a turbo lag. Now, you know what? It's not even a turbo lag. What it is that the power that they deliver up top is just so much more. So they do have some power at the bottom and you can really get this off the line, but when the turbos kick in at full power, you definitely feel this thing go. So it's kind of like a turbo lag, but it still delivers a good amount of power on the low end. But this has been so much fun. And like I've meant, yeah, the sound has been really good as well. It does cheat a little bit and we'll get to that later on, but the sound is really good. I love it. It looks nice. Yeah, this has been a great power plant. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have in that wheel and tire package. We get down to the wheel and tire package, and as if the front headlights aren't already, that awesome design isn't already getting you attention, these wheels definitely will. They look really nice. I love the kind of directional. I like this side more. The other side I think it's facing the wrong way, but they're a nice look to them. We have the 225/40 on a 19-inch wheel here. Michelin Pilot Sport 4s. On the back, you have 255, so a little bit wider on that. But these things have been amazing. I really love the way that they look, they grip, but also this has the Brembo brake option as well. And man, can you get this thing stopped. So these brakes really have a good amount of grip. And even in the rear, so in the rear, the tires can get a little loose on the initial bite of things, but you'll definitely feel some mechanical traction or mechanical grip take into place a little bit as soon as you get them going a little, but they're definitely awesome. I love the way that these look again, and yeah, the red caliper is always a nice touch. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have on the side. We take a look at the side, and the camera's probably capturing this white more on the gray side, or at least that's what my eye is seeing right now. But that's what I was telling you about. This color is just so good. We take a look at the side though, and we kind of have some proportions that, although it looks bigger, it is probably bigger. I'm pretty sure it is bigger, but it has very Alpha Julia kind of proportions to it. So fairly longer hood, the cockpit area here, so to speak, and a fairly, compressed trunk, which is nice. It's a nice proportion to it. Again, we start off with the hood. We have some, nice sculpted lines up front. We have those beautiful 19-inch wheels. We do have these little openings here. They appear to be functional. Yes, they are functional. So there is openings in there. It's not just a little plastic panel there. So that's nice to have. And again, we just have this nice color. Roof line is nice. That little trunk lip there, or that little spoiler, such a nice little touch. It's kind of like a mini duck tail, so to speak. And we have those taillights, which we'll get to see later on, but definitely have a nice little design to them right there. Now, keyless entry. So this does have their keyless entry system. I'm actually going to go ahead and kind of step away from it. And the reason why, and you're still hearing me, but the reason why is because when I start to get closer to it, it immediately knows that I'm here. And yes, I don't even have to put much effort. I can just get next to it, and it goes ahead and opens up. I don't have to press anything on my key fob. I just have it in my pocket. Great thing about this is that when I do close the door and I step away, it will start to actually lock the car. And there you go. So it's a nice thing to have. This is definitely, the technology in this is incredible, and that's what we want in a car. So let's go ahead and head to the back and see what we have there. We get to the back and we have some really nice design cues. I do love the way that this area here breaks up the taillights, and these are what they call the Quad LED taillights. They look really nice. I really love the design of this. And again, we have that trunk kind of lid here, or that lip that kind of has that that duck tail kind of design to it. Love it. Really good design. We have the badging, of course, and down here we have this black little area that really breaks up the big Siberian Ice here color. We do have the exhaust here. Let's talk about that. So you see this circular shape here? That's not the exhaust tip. It's just the design. Yes, that's kind of a fail on that part of the design, but inside of it though, it does have dual quad, or this has quad exhaust tips. So yes, there's kind of like a square shape too. I would say even just polishing those and have those kind of come out would have been nice. This shape is nice, but make it functional. But I'll give you guys a pass because this actually sounds pretty good. So yeah, we have that. Now, yeah, my favorite part, I don't have my key fob with me. Reason why is because, so the key fob's actually off camera. If I have my key fob here, it would actually go to the next thing that I want to show. So let me go ahead and grab the key fob, and when I grab the key fob and I get near the trunk area, you can see the light turned on, and then, yeah, on its own. So this is, there are a lot of little things with this Genesis. There's a lot of little things hidden in the menus that you can turn on. You know, it's a lot of cool little things. It's not like you're actively looking for this, but which is nice because it's not like AC vents, AC controls that you're having to go into menu to find this. But it's nice that when you're digging in there just to see what you can do, it has little quirks like this, which are really nice to have. So again, if you have your hands full, as long as you're next to it, it will go ahead and open up. I tried it. I had things in one hand. If you have things in one hand, you're better off just pressing the button because it can take a little bit long to open up if you're holding something heavy and have one hand free. If you're holding two things, then you're good. Just hold it for a little bit longer and it'll open up. So you have that. But when we open up, we do have a fairly wide opening, which is nice. This isn't too bad. Would have been nice to have a little bit more. And the reason why that you don't have as much height is because, yeah, the floor panel here is not really that deep. Rear differential, typically again, but I've seen other cars that really have a lot more depth in this. So that is a little bit lacking, and the depth going far to the front. But lengthwise or widthwise, it does a good job, and it's fairly good. So you do have the button to hold it, but it doesn't close. It only opens up. So it's kind of more a spring-loaded system. So you close this, and again, you have that button there. You have this. You have the backup camera, which is great with this system, and that's what you have in this. We get to the key fob, and yeah, we have your typical things, which are nice, but we have some added options on this. We do have the lock, unlock, and it's probably gonna yeah, that's what I meant. Stay down. But basically, yeah, we have some great things on this key fob. What's great about Genesis is you can program this on your key. You can use your phone by itself as a key as well. Would I do that? Maybe not. I mean, I'd still bring the key along just in case, but it's nice to have that function as well, that technology, in a fairly inexpensive vehicle for what it is. But again, you have the option without having to, you know, pay for service. My favorite thing, auto start. So with this, it does say hold for the little kind of curve arrow. Stop. Behave. But the way that you have to do it is you press the lock button and then you hold the button and it will start. Now, stop. Yeah, it can get a little annoying, so just be careful. If you're doing a car review and happen to be in the back, you're gonna want to turn that function off. But what's great about this is it's a V6 in here, and I've mentioned before that it's not that V6 sound bad, it's that V8 sound better, but this V6 actually sounds pretty good. It's got a little bit of a rumble going on. Well, let's go ahead and hop in and go for a ride. You open up the door and you're immediately greeted by this incredible looking door. Yeah, I was impressed by just the door, but you have this diamond pattern stitching on the leatherette on it, and it's, you know, it's black with the red stitching. It looks really nice. It's incredible. And you know, you put your arm on the armrest itself, and it's extremely comfortable. Nice positioning for that. We have kind of this like carbon fiber pattern, but in a silver color. So it's nice finish there. And the speaker, we have a nice little tweeter there, which we'll get to soon. But just by the door, I was impressed by how the quality of this really was. And then you get to the seats. You get to the seats, and they are amazing. They follow that same diamond pattern on it, and they look comfortable, but they're also are comfortable. So it's nice. And you have a 12 adjustable positioning for this. It's extremely good. They were comfortable, loved them. You know, it's nice seat. It's a nice seat. And so a couple of things with this. This does have the optional seats, the more premium one that does have the heated and the cooled. So it does have vented seats. So it's a nice thing to have. And the vents actually work for the cooling, because when it's hitting triple degrees here in Texas, we definitely want to have those and for them to function great. So again, we have that function on that. The other thing as well is, we'll talk a little bit about it later, but just a quick preview is that when you do put this in sport mode, this does have the option that when you go into sport mode, for it to hug you on the sides. So the side bolsters really hug you in a little bit more than your normal setting. Nice little touch. It's like, I got you, don't worry. Sit tight, you're gonna go for a ride. So it's nice to have that as an option. You can turn it off in case you don't want it to, if you just want the sport and you don't want it to adjust you, but it's a nice little feature to have. Another thing I really liked about this, and I didn't think I would need it, but it was actually pretty useful, is that the passenger side here actually has the buttons to move the seat forward, whether it's the front, whether it's the back part or the whole seat itself. I didn't think I would need it, but when you're trying to get someone to come in, like my little guy, and you want to just go ahead and move this, or if my wife needs the space to put him in, I can move this here. I don't have to kind of reach over. It's such a stupid little thing, but it makes so much sense. So I was really surprised that this had this, and it worked extremely well. I don't know why more car manufacturers don't have that, but yeah, definitely need to have that in more vehicles. So it's a nice little touch. Again, it's just nice little convenience. The other thing that's great about this seat is not really the seat itself, but the seat belt. Yeah, they're in red. I know it's very racer boy kind of feel to it or look to it, but it just complements the interior so well. I'm definitely a sucker for these things. Very Porsche-like. So nice little touch. I like this. I'll definitely take this. And when we get over to the steering wheel, there's so much to the steering wheel, and it's so nice. So first, it's the leather wrapped steering wheel, and again, we have that red stitching on it, which is a nice touch, and the feel of it is nice. The buttons are really well placed. I do love the volume knob on the left hand side. It does remind me of the Mercedes knob, so it looks like that like cheese grater kind of look to it. So definitely a nice little touch to that. And we have the button to change the track right next to it, which is really nice and convenient. Everything is nicely placed there. We have your cruise control settings with no issues there, and your options to change what's on the gauge cluster. And we have the paddle shifter. The paddle shifters have been great, nice and small, but enough. It's enough. It's not massive things, but they're not super small either. So they really get the job done for when you're needing to have the wheel turned and have your fingers positioned to go up or down a gear. So that's nice to have there. We get to the gauge cluster, and there's a lot of cool things about this gauge cluster. On the left, we do have old school analog. So we do have your analog gauge for your speedometer. In the middle, we have your nice little screen for all your information. Right now, we have it for the car information as far as like oil temperature, the torque, and the turbo boost. So we have that, but you can change it to other different things on this. There's not a lot to it, so don't expect too many cool things on this, but that's just enough. What we do have on the right, though, is what makes it really cool. So on the right side, we have the tachometer, but it's actually digital. So it's not an analog gauge. It really doesn't look like an analog gauge because the other one just stands out so much different from it. OCD people, yeah, this may bother you a little bit because it does look different significantly, but it makes up for it. What's great about this is that when you have your turn signal on, it actually uses the screen to project what is on your mirrors, the little camera that's facing back that usually is used for 360 views. So that's brilliant. I mean, why didn't more manufacturers not have this? I believe Honda has it for their Civic or Accord, but I think it's only on the right side. But yeah, this has it here, and it lets you see that. Again, these simple things, but that makes sense, but you don't see very often. So nice to have that. But then when you go up to the screen on your mirror, on your windshield, this does have the heads-up display. It's hit or miss. So it's a hit. Actually, let's go with the miss. It's a miss because even in sport mode, I can't see my tachometer, so I can't shift. Granted, we'll get into the shifting part of this, but I can't see the tachometer, which would be a nice touch to kind of have that on there. Because when you're using your turn signal, it does hide your tachometer. So yeah, it would have been nice to be able to adjust it, or at least I haven't found a way of adjusting it. Internet, help me out. YouTube, help me out. Let me know if I'm doing something wrong, if there is an option to change that. But we do have your speed on there. And the great thing about this, where it's a really big hit, is the fact that it will indicate the blind spots. So it'll indicate if you have a car on your left side with the blind spot, and show it to you on the display, on the heads-up display, which is great because at that point, before you're even thinking of switching lanes, you can already see and not be taking your eyes off the road. I can see, oh, I do have a car to my left, or I do have a car to my right. So it's a nice little touch to have that. Again, simple things that we're already using. You know, basically use the tools you have in the mirrors and tell me, hey, there is something in your blind spot, but show it to me here. So again, small little things that really make this amazing. So that's a nice little touch to have on the heads-up display. We come over to the infotainment, and this is where this actually does really good. It's not a big screen, but it's a wide screen, which is a nice thing to have. That way it's not very obstructive of your view and it's out of the way, but it's still big enough that it's nice. It's a nice, clear, big screen, or widescreen in this case. I have my Apple CarPlay plugged in, and this does have a 15 speaker Lexicon system. This thing is loud. This thing is loud, and it's so good. It sounds so good, and it has these different modes for, you know, changing your music and just creating the musical experience in this, because it's, after all, a beautiful experience, an amazing experience to be in this car. And it does it really well. So it doesn't take away from the music. It really enhances it, which is a nice touch. I'm usually kind of against that, but it does a good job at presenting the music in a nice way. So we have that. And again, we have the kind of different settings here. We have a ton of different things. What I love about the Genesis system at Kia / Hyundai is there is a lot to them. There's a lot of little things that are kind of the icing on the cake. It's kind of like when you see a cake and you're like, oh wow, that looks nice, and you cut into it and it just has all these awesome things inside, maybe a different type of color inside, or different flavors inside. Whatever there is, you're gonna want to eat that cake. And that's what this is. It's got those little surprises that, you know, it's a cake, or you know how to use it, you know how to get to the basic stuff, but when you start kind of snooping around and getting in there, it does have a lot of nice little features. One of those features is, like I mentioned, the seat. The seat, when you go into sport mode, it hugs you. It hugs you. So again, it's just those little things. So definitely, if you get a Genesis or are planning on getting one, go into the menus, because again, there's tons of cool little things that you have. I mean, the drive modes, just the sound design, like I mentioned, the heads-up display, just a lot of great things. So, but again, and I even programmed this button here to go back to my Apple CarPlay. And it was very easy to program. Again, I was just kind of going through things and I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, cool. Because sometimes if you go out, it's like you're trying to figure out, how do I get back to the Apple CarPlay? Well, you program that little button and you're good to go on that. So we have that. And again, we have these quick, when we look down a little bit more, we have your volume knob, again, that you can do also in the steering wheel, but you also have these quick buttons here where when you want to get to a specific menu. We get down here to the AC controls, and this is actually really nice. I love the layout of this. And again, like I mentioned, we have those heated and cooled seats right there in that little area. We come down here and a little bit lower, and this is where it's kind of a little weird, because we do have your wireless charger here, which is nice, and we have the USB port. So this does not have wireless Apple CarPlay. Again, one of my biggest things is you have a wireless charger, let's get wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto set up on this, but it doesn't. So I'm literally have my phone plugged in and I have it set on the wireless charging pad. Coming down to the shifter, it's a nice little shifter, nothing fancy about it. It does have the park button on there, and again, you have your regular modes. The one thing it's lacking is a sport mode or the ability to shift with the shifter itself. It's okay. It's not a big deal breaker, so to speak, because the paddles work pretty well, but it would have been nice to have that on the shifter itself, or even just a sport mode, just a little bit of an more aggressive shifting on its own kind of thing, instead of having to really go into sport mode itself for the whole engine and everything. So that would have been nice. We come a little more back and we have the drive modes. So right now we do have it in eco mode, we do have comfort, sport, sport plus, and then custom. Then we have the auto hold, my favorite. So again, just a quick description of what it is when you're on stop and go traffic and you just push the brake a little bit further than normal, it will essentially lock the brakes so that you can lift your foot and the car won't move. Again, nice little convenience option there. The other thing is traction control. Yeah, that's gonna stay on with this. Again, we'll get to that in the performance section. And then we have the parking cameras, which is nice because I don't want to scratch that front end, and I don't want to scratch the wheels, because you can actually change the camera to show you your actual wheels, which is a nice thing to have because these are nice wheels and you definitely don't want to scratch them. So that's a nice thing. And then we have your emergency or your parking brake here, which, yes, it's a button, and no, it's not a handle. But yeah, that's good. And then we have obviously your glove, your center console storage area. It's nice. It's a little on the far back. I don't know if it's just because I'm shorter and I'm a little bit more forward, but it does feel a little bit kind of like a little bit more towards the rear. It's not that big either, so don't expect to really throw in a bunch of things. We get to the back and we can see that my kid's seat is back there, and it's fine. There's plenty of space in the back. It's nice and comfortable. He loved this car because he likes that those red accents that this has in the stitching. So he has been comfortable back there, no complaints, loved the car. And when we get to the trunk area, there's a lot of space. It's a big trunk. It's not really deep, like it you know, from the back to the front kind of thing. So yeah, but it is big on the width, which is nice. And with the fact that this opens up on its own, again, like you guys saw, it's a nice little touch. Now let's talk performance. With that being said, let's go ahead and switch over to sport mode. We won't go into sport plus. So obviously the eco mode is going to be just that. It's just going to be your eco. Comfort is just going to make it comfortable. Sport is going to make it sportier. Sport Plus is going to be sporty minus traction control. So I thought maybe, okay, let me put it in Sport Plus and turn on the traction control, but then it kicks it back to normal sport. So that's the difference. And then you have custom, which you can customize the different parameters that this has for like the engine and suspension and the steering wheel feel. But I didn't see a need to go into custom and customize it, because the comfort mode is good for being comfortable. Sport is great for sport, and so on. But it's a nice little thing. Now, remember when I mentioned this has like those little gems hidden? This does have the sound being pumped in or generated into the cabin from either the engine or a artificial sound. But with that being said, it does it in a really good way. I didn't even realize it. I just thought, man, this sounds good. But I didn't realize it again until, like I mentioned, those little things you're digging into that menu, and I left it. I haven't even bothered turning it off because it just sounds so good. And again, I'll downshift. And man, this thing roars. Now what's making that, or helping make that roar, is the 3.3 liter V6 turbocharged under here. And it is cranking out 365 horsepower with 376 pound-feet of torque. And with this being the rear-wheel drive model, again, it's sending it to the back. Now, you're thinking, well, 300 horsepower nowadays is not that much, and especially in a bigger car like this. But I can tell you, this thing is a blast. And it really likes to go. But it's not just about how, with just having a lot of power, but it's how it gets it down to the ground. It does like to get sideways. I think that's part of the experience of this, which even with the traction control, it lets you get a little bit sideways, which is why I've had the traction control 99.9%. You can guess why that 1.1% made me turn it back on. It wasn't bad, but I still was, it can get sideways. And it's a fun car though. The performance is really there. The steering wheel feels amazing. Like when you put it into that sport mode, the heavy sensation of it is really nice. But it's not, even though I love super heavy steering wheels, it's still comfortable enough to use or constantly use. So it's nice to have that. Again, the paddle shifter, the gears would be nice if I had the tachometer on the if I had the tachometer on the heads up display. But it sounds so good and it handles so nice on this turn right there. The turn-in, mid-corner turn-in on this is amazing. You'll have your steering wheel held at a spot, and then it kind of gives you this even bigger sensation mid-corner that you can rotate the car even further. But it does it in a great way. It's not oversteer. It's not oversteer. So you're not kicking the back out as far as like drifting it. It's rotating the car. I've never felt that in a car. Mid-corner turn-in is spectacular. And it's not just about turning, but also stopping. So this one does have the Brembo brakes, and they will get you stopped. They will really get you stopped. One thing though is, I don't know if it's just the pads or whatever the case is, but with just a little bit of spirited driving and I got out, I can really smell the brakes. The brakes were really, the smell was really strong. So did I sense any fade? Not at all. So this definitely still had its pretty good braking power. I don't want to brake too hard but it definitely can brake hard. Again, the big surprise with this is that mid-corner turning. The grip is just really good. at that point. Can you get it sideways? Like I said, hell yeah. You can get it sideways, and it's a lot of fun. Again, the shifting, I would have liked for it to have the option on the actual shifter itself to put it in sport mode, but without it is perfectly fine. It just, wherever you point it, it wants to go there. And the back is right there with you. So it's not like you're not feeling understeer. You can feel a little bit oversteer, initial oversteer, like I said, but once it catches the grip, and it really kind of feels very like a differential working kind of thing. It doesn't feel as much as traction control, because when you get it sideways, the traction control is going to want to kick in. It's really more of the it really is more of a mechanical feeling grip for the traction control, which is nice. It's nice that you don't feel the power is getting cut off like you do with other cars. So that's a nice feel to this. Another thing kind of with this is the shifting. It will automatically shift. So you can't, even if I put it in Sport Plus, and yeah, it will change it to the next gear. So it's not a true manual mode, so to speak. And then obviously you hold down that button and it switch the up gear and it switches back to automatic mode fully. But it actually is essentially fully automatic all the time, because it does do the upshifts for you. I guess that's fine, but because would I take this on a track? I kind of would. I would take it to a kind of a track day, so to speak. I wouldn't be really competitive racing in this, but it would be nice to just see what it can do. Get that V6 nice and open, let it breathe a bit, some track air, and let those brakes, get some heat in them. But this thing has been incredible. The sensation of that turbo, the power, the way that the power kicks in is a little old school in a turbo lag kind of way, but it's fun. But it still has enough power underneath, like I said, to really get those tires loose. It's so much fun. It is incredible. This is the best part of this vehicle. Granted, everything is amazing. Everything else has been spectacular, but the actual drive itself is just so good. And launch control. This thing has launch control, which is really, really good. In the rear wheel drive model, even though you can get it sideways, the launch control itself, when it's just power down and go. It's really good at getting that power down. So the launch control is a lot of fun. My kid's always like, "Daddy, launch it," and I'm like, "Yes, I will." You gotta make your kids proud. Your kids gotta be proud of you. So yeah, you gotta give in to their awesome demands sometimes. Now, who's this for? This is for a lot of people. What's crazy is that this can start about $35,000, and this one is about $50,000, and it can go a little bit more than that. But the way that this is equipped, I think is perfect. You don't have the all-wheel drive in this model. This is the rear-wheel drive model. It does have that as an option. Would I get the all-wheel drive model? I don't think so. That was one of the debates I kind of had in my little Facebook car group, that I don't think I would, because I feel like, I don't know if the all-wheel drive system would be too maybe front-wheel drive bias and not rear-wheel drive bias, and take away that fun or that dynamics of, that, I know I keep mentioning, but that mid-corner turning, that is just so good in this. And I don't know. I don't think I would do that. Would launch control be better? Yeah, it would definitely be a lot better. But I mean, it's not that it's bad on this. It's amazing in this. You don't feel anything burning out, and you don't feel the car burning out or loss of traction, or you know, loss of power. It's just go. So I don't know if you would really need the all-wheel drive, unless I guess in climate and different climate. But I mean, that's what rear-wheel drive cars are for. Just have fun in them. Have some fun in the snow and not in the ice. But yeah, I think I can do without the all-wheel drive system and just keep it in this. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Genesis G70, and remember, find the right gear. See ya.